Okay, this is going to be the technical lightning round with Derek Buster. You ready?
All right.
Hot seat. Most underrated log suite.
Oh, spectral gamma ray.
Nice. Most over-relied upon curve.
Over-relied upon curve. Gamma ray.
I knew it. I could hear the guy telling me how much oil's in the rock based on the gamma ray. Okay, core or logs if you only had one to choose.
Core or logs? I guess it depends on what you're doing, but if it's oil and gas related, probably core.
Nice.
Yeah.
First data set you request on a new well.
First data set I request on a new well. Wow, I mean that's a good one. Probably probably a seismic cross section.
Did you say seismic cross section?
Yeah.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, a red flag that tells you do not overinterpret this.
Oh, probably mud gas.
Oh, wow. Wow, okay, last one. One petrophysical term every completions professional should understand.
A term. Okay, so read that question again.
Yep. One petrophysical term every completions professional should understand.
Brittleness.
Oh, brittleness. Okay. Nice. Well, that's it for the technical lightning round. Thank you for entertaining that.
Resonate H2O provides the hydration your body needs with a carefully formulated blend of electrolytes, essential amino acids, and premium ingredients designed to help support hydration, focus, and everyday performance. Whether you're heading to the gym, the office, out on the trail, or just trying to stay hydrated throughout your day, Resonate H2O is built to help you feel your best. Visit ResonateH2O.com and use promo code PODCAST to save on your first order. That's ResonateH2O.com. Hydrate smarter with Resonate H2O. This episode is proudly sponsored by Mandrill Energy Solutions. In today's demanding energy industry, having the right people and the right partner makes all the difference. Mandrill Energy Solutions provides tailored staffing, personnel, and equipment solutions specializing in solids control, experienced mud technicians, environmental cleanup services. Their team works closely with every client to understand their unique needs and deliver solutions that keep operations running safely, efficiently, and on schedule. Learn more at mandrillenergysolutions.com or through their LinkedIn page. Mandrill Energy Solutions, delivering the people, expertise, and solutions that power your success.
No, it's good. I mean, it's good because, a lot of times when you even think about some of these concepts, brittleness to me is something that talks about whether the rock is actually going to break.
Yeah.
And not really hardness or strength. It's something about, and how is it going to break? And a lot of times we just assume that stuff that's very clay rich can be very ductile or it doesn't break, but it all depends on what kind of clay.
Wow.
And it depends on how much,
Wow.
I think we have these ranges we put in our mind that sometimes rocks that are real clay rich don't work. But if you look at, let's say, for instance, the eastern Eagleford, okay, so like Burleson County, the stuff that Wildfire just sold.
Okay.
That's pretty clay rich, but they make some monster oil wells.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not a 1-to-1.
So brittleness, really understand it, because you say brittleness. Oh, so it's got a bunch of quartz or something. I guess you're saying,
or it's got some cementing materials that make it want to break in a certain way.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I mean that's
For completions guys, they don't really know how we come up with it. Like there's equations that we use to generate it, but sometimes the equations don't necessarily, work for people that are engineers.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Okay, you ready to do the 3, 2, 1 countdown?
yep, that's fine.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's
go.
go. I'm the host of the PBE podcast, Troy Tittlemier, joined by Derek Buster. Sir, thank you so much for taking the time to meet and tell the story. Sit down with us for a couple of hours, share that experience, share your logic. I'm thankful for your time. I'm thankful to share this time with you. Please give me an elevator pitch. Derek Buster, say we're at an SPWLA conference or a happy hour and says, hey, nice to meet you. What do you do?
My name is Derek Buster, and I am a forensic analyst of oil and gas. Because you've already decided to drill your well. Now I get to tell you what's in it.
Nice. I like that. Man, well, so what dropped out from the show, obviously your background, very unique, having a physicist degree and like a minor in mathematics, and then your experience of being able to go out there, learn from the service side of things, right? That very unique 8-9 years experience of going through the training of that and then seeing how it gets applied in the real world for operators who have to really move a needle and get return on investments and all that stuff. So fascinating career. I thought you articulated all that stuff super well. What is your thought on the mathematics debate that Terrence Howard brought up? 1 times 1 is supposed to equal 2. Have you heard this?
No.
You haven't heard this? Yeah, he says that I guess like 2 kind of doesn't really work well in mathematics. There's like rules that are special for 2. And he says, how can 1 times 1 not equal something more than 1? He just has a problem with that. And then he has this weird mathematics that he uses like a square root of something, and then it goes back into the multiple, and it just starts creating a loop, right? It doesn't work in mathematics. And so he was pointing this out. You haven't heard that?
I haven't heard this. But I will say that there are people that have problems with zero.
Zero's
as a
problem.
concept. Yes. I mean, a lot of times, the absence of a value can be just as important as the value.
The absence of a value can be as important as the value.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, for me, when you think about zero, it is a point between -1 and 1, right? Like there's a concept to it, but it's also, there's nothing there. Right. And so for the longest time, I've had to explain to people that zero is really the opposite of infinity.
Yeah.
It's the absence of everything. And so, and I think that when you look at calculus or differential equations, we always want to take the limit of something. But once you hit zero, there's really nothing there. I mean, it's unlimited. It's the unlimited absence of everything.
0 and infinity. Yeah. Well, so anyway, sorry for the rabbit hole on that. I figured you've certainly.
But one is not my problem.
1's not the problem. 2's not really a problem for you. So anyway, so dropping out from the show, the idea that now we have a technology where, because of how a dipole sonic works and how you have these first arrivals and then you have second arrivals in this data, you can strategically lay these tools across a problematic zone, find big fractures filled with water, like you explained, or maybe there's a future where you can drag these things across where maybe there's more oil field fractures and you really want to set your stages in these kinds of environments.
I definitely think that, we are not a one-dimensional thought company or industry. And so when you think about correlating signals, I look at everything. I look at the gas. I look at the cuttings. I look at the logs. I look at the stratigraphy. I'm trying to correlate things on multiple scales, multiple dimensions, and multiple data types.
Yeah.
And so acoustics and imaging, definitely one data type, but you have to combine it with other things in order to really make a useful interpretation from it.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. What dropped out from the show? Anything in particular for you?
When you okay, so like when you come up with your program, I looked at your outline. I thought it was great. Um, Certainly the backgrounds of everybody that's involved is important. Like I like to hear where people come from
Yeah.
because it gives you perspective on how they think.
Yeah.
I mean, I know my background's unique. I mean, not a geologist. I've sort of studied some geophysics. Have a very unique perspective on the value of certain data types and data sets, and but certainly the thing that I like about the show is that you get into the weeds on the backgrounds of people
Yeah.
because it does help give some perspective.
Big time. I mean, incredibly valuable. And I think at the end of the day, it explains how someone actually gets a long, successful, very story-filled career. You've identified something that you actually loved as a child, and then you kept that theme. You
Yeah.
really kept that theme. And that's what I think we all do that. It's just not very many people maybe reflect on that right away in their 20s or in their 30s when they're building their career. But you're doing something you love. You're doing something you really chased.
I've had a lot of discussions with people that study things that they don't actually use.
Mm,
That this seems to be sort of a common problem that our culture has is that we tell everybody that they need to go to school and get an education,
Right.
but they haven't even figured out what they like it.
yeah.
And early on, I knew what I liked and I knew what I wanted, and that's what drove me to do what I do. So certainly, I think people who love rocks, like I do mentor people that are my kids' age, and I'm involved with Civil Air Patrol. We're
Wow.
starting to get into the weeds on that, and they've got a aerospace portion that I'm going to be involved in soon.
Wow.
And it's really interesting to give back after you've had a long career like I've had,
How cool.
and know that you're shaping the future.
Right. Man, love it. Last thing before we leave, stay positive. Quotes and quips. I just want to get kind of a little bit of your take on philosophy, right? And then we get into the actual nuts and bolts of the show. So you tell me when to stop,
Stop.
and then we'll see if this hits you. So just as there are diamonds, gold, and oil inside the earth. I mean, this is totally random. This is not an oil book, nothing like that. And I have not come across this one. Just as there are diamonds, gold, and oil inside the earth, there is a priceless treasure inside of you. You are valuable beyond measure, and there is greatness inside of you. You don't have to chase it. You already have it. You just have to do the work to bring it out and shine.
Sums up the show perfect.
Man, I love that. Okay, the other page before we leave. The enemy uses the triple D to divide, discourage, and destroy. Don't take the bait. Stay united. Stay encouraged. Stay strong in faith, love, and hope. Remember, love wins. Love is love. It's optimism, it's vision, and it's encouragement.
Excellent.
Man. So when you go and you're meeting these younger kids and you're talking about, giving back, what some of that stuff is just the fundamentals of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up Boy Scouts,
Okay.
doing volunteer work. I loved when I was in college. We, as a society, physics society, would go and do these elementary school visits where we take all these different experiments and showcase them.
Yeah.
Uh, we had one of those big rubber band machines that would generate all this electricity and make your hair stand up, or, we would put light bulbs in our mouth and shock each other and you'd see the light glow. It's like, it's just the craziest stuff. Right. But I enjoyed that so much.
Wow.
And when I had kids, I was like, I can't wait to be able to do that with my kids.
Wow. Man, love that. Thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for what you've done for the industry, giving back in multiple ways, not just back to the SPWLA and your papers and your publications and your ideas, but to the kids and aeronautical stuff that you're doing and just everything that you are, man. You're a LinkedIn ninja. I see you on there. You definitely have a presence. I think you're an influencer, and thank God for that. Thank God we have influencers like Derek Buster to help guide us and engage with this audience. Well, we're going to start the conception part of the PBE podcast with Derek Buster. I want to read a quick introduction put together after stalking you online, reading your LinkedIn's. So today on the People Behind Energy podcast, we're joined by Derek Buster, a seasoned petrophysicist and subsurface professional whose career has taken him from the operational side of the oil field to complex reservoir characterization and consulting across conventional and unconventional plays. Derek brings a rare combination of field experience, technical depth, and practical business perspectives. He has worked across major service companies, operators, and consulting roles, helping teams build core calibrated petrophysical models, understanding reservoir quality, and turning well-logged data into better drilling and completion decisions. In this conversation, we'll get to know Derek's career, right? His journey, the science of sonic logs. I'm looking forward to that. And how petrophysicists identify fractures and rock behavior beneath the surface. And where technology, data, and artificial intelligence may take the discipline next. We'll also talk about the value of the SPWLA community and what is ahead for this profession. Derek, thank you for being a person that is behind energy.
Thank you for having me, Troy.
Great, man. So let's rock it back. Where are you from?
I grew up in Houston, believe it or not, Spring area,
Okay.
which is off 1960 near I-45. I went to Westfield High School, graduated in 1995, ended up going to Sam Houston State University,
Okay.
which is in Huntsville, Texas.
Did you already have a love for rocks at this point? Like you remember thinking like...
Actually, I believe it or not, I'm the furthest thing from a rock guy.
You're a petrophysicist.
It's ironic, Petro is rock. And fortunately for me, I had a pretty unusual upbringing. My parents own their own business, which was a radio control business.
Radio control?
Yeah, so like radio controlled cars and planes and boats and things like that.
No kidding.
So I grew up in that from like the age of 10 until I graduated high school.
Like taking apart remotes and how the receiver worked.
Just get a big box of parts and have to put the whole thing together.
No kidding.
And that's really where I got my want for understanding technical things. So I started traveling a lot, talking to people that were in that industry, understanding what kind of career they had and where they came from, what sort of things they studied. And I just, I got into physics in high school. I really didn't like chemistry.
Oh man, it's a common theme.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But I took some physics classes, and I had a teacher, Diane Truitt. She had a master's degree in physics, I think from Purdue or something like that. And we had a tech day at Astroworld.
Whoa.
It was like all these physics departments go to Astroworld and they have all these experiments they're supposed to run on the rides. And we had these little gauges and tools.
Wow.
It was kind of like, probably back in the Middle Ages, Newtonian time or whatever. And you're just making measurements of acceleration and speed and centrifugal force and all this stuff. And I was like, man, I enjoyed that. And so after I graduated college, it was really hard to find a job as a physicist. Yeah, it was with a 4-year degree in physics. And my minor is in mathematics.
Wow!
I have a pretty heavy math background. Physics is nothing more than just a physical expression of math.
Wow.
But I got into graduate school at the University of Houston. I actually had a professor when I was an undergraduate who was a nuclear physicist for Texaco.
Whoa. Okay.
And that's really where I got my interest in the oil and gas industry.
No kidding. Not until you're about to get in a master's degree.
Yeah. So I did all this studying of math and atomic physics and thermodynamics and electricity and magnetism. I had all these tools in my head.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have a way to put them into practice.
Dang.
And so this professor, he did a lot of work with a company out of Canada, and they were developing electromagnetic telemetry, MWD.
Electromagnetic telemetry.
Basically, it's
while drilling.
Yeah, so basically it's a tool that sends an electrical signal from the tool through the formation, and then it's received on surface. So basically, you run some stakes out, or you have a receiver that sits on surface. And so instead of using mud pulses, it uses these long wavelength electromagnetic waves to send the telemetry up. And I was designing receivers, so this was a kind of like an undergraduate research project. And so I had this lab. He had a lab. I had this lab available to me. Had an old function generator and an oscilloscope, and I would sit up there with these coils, and I would wrap coils, and I would test them, and it was really a lot of fun because it was kind of like the Astroworld thing. You have these tools available to you, and you want to make measurements with them. Yeah. And so,
can you explain an oscilloscope real quick? What's the simple way of what is that doing?
It's kind of like a voltmeter. Basically you're looking for signals. A couple of probes. You put them on. So a function generator is basically like generating a sine wave or a square wave or some sort of signal that you feed into the device, and then you use this oscilloscope to measure that signal. Essentially, it's telling you what the wave looks like and what the amplitudes are, or the frequency, that kind of stuff.
Wow! So it's all about sound.
Well, it's actually an electromagnetic wave. So
okay.
Yeah. So all these waves kind of propagate in the same sort of physical domain. Sound waves, light waves. Basically, light is an electromagnetic wave. We like to think of it as particles, but most of the time it's described best as an electromagnetic wave. And so I got into that, and then when I was in grad school, they had a career day, and it was Schlumberger and all the big service companies at the University of Houston. That's where I went to grad school, and I went to the career fair.
Yeah, showed up.
And the unfortunate part was you had to reserve like a interview slot with them, and I had missed that day.
Oh no!
So what they told us is that if you come to the career fair after, they had a big presentation like after the career fair. If you came to that, they would have 2 spots. Bring your resume. They would have 2 spots open the next day for you to interview. There were like 600 people. I mean, it was
because this was open to people outside of school. It was
mostly the people at U of H, but it was a lot of engineering students, because in 2002 the economy wasn't really that great.
2002,
yeah, it was post 9/11. A lot of hiring had been frozen. We were just about to go to war. So there really wasn't a whole lot of opportunity.
Sure, yeah.
And especially for somebody who had just a bachelor's degree in physics. But I went, and I had this guy that I interviewed with so I got the interview. So that's the key part. I went to the thing afterwards.
Yeah.
And they're showing the pyramids, and this chick, she's on a ship, and she's sailing the ocean. It's a big drill ship, and it's like all glamorous. And, and then you get in the oil field, and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm in an inland barge in South Louisiana. The furthest thing from a cruise ship. It's definitely not 5-star. And but anyway, I got the interview, and I had this guy interview me. He was like 18 years Schlumberger.
Wow.
Field engineer. And they would do that. They would bring people that actually had field experience to the interviews, because those are the best people to screen if you have the capabilities.
Right. I could see it in your eyes.
Or the tenacity to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So his first question is, why do you want to work for Schlumberger? And
Oof.
I thought about it for a second. I said, well, I'm broke and I'm hungry and I'll do anything for money.
Damn. Physicist.
Yeah.
I'm broke.
And-
I'm hungry. Do anything for money.
And I got the job.
Yeah.
I got the job. Well, I got the second interview anyway. And
There's something to be said for that, the simplicity of that, the way you answered that, just truthfully and raw, and like, okay, you have a physics degree. I was going to say, oh, I love electromagnetic waves, and I want to know how they're implemented in your tools and how I can develop your stuff. Like, that's a super sophisticated answer, or the very real answer is what you went with.
Well, the thing with most of our industry is we make a lot of assumptions about where this stuff comes from. The signals from the tools, what they mean. Petrophysics in general is converting just signals into things we can describe as rocks or fluids.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to calibrate the signals. That's why we collect cores. That's why we collect fluids or pressures, because we're really trying to describe the subsurface with things that really don't measure the subsurface.
Wow.
And the things that you think, like porosity, there's no such thing as a porosity tool. I mean, we infer porosity.
Right. Off of density.
Or neutron. Or
the neutron,
NMR,
yeah.
or acoustic. I mean, we have all these transforms for all these different measurements that we infer these physical characteristics of the rock. And then we use things like resistivity or conductivity to describe the fluids that are in them and how they're distributed, whether it's clay-bound fluids or if it's free fluids or if it's hydrocarbons. So there's a lot of math involved to do that. And in some cases, what I find is that when you come out of grad school, like, having that opportunity to have a gap and spend some time thinking about these things, when you come out of grad school, you really find out you didn't learn much.
Wow.
They gave you the tools to learn on your own, is really what it is. And so I spent probably a good 15 or 16 weeks in Schlumberger training.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where was that at?
Sugar Land. So
Okay.
they have a base. It's the headquarters actually for North America. And
It's in Sugar Land?
it's in Sugar Land.
Huh.
They have a rig there. They have a rig, and they will teach you everything you have to know about being a MWD or an LWD hand or a wireline hand. They'll have wireline trucks that back up to it. And you have to rig it all up.
Wow.
And you have to execute it. And then they'll test you and throw things at you that make you stumble. And then you have to figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
Because you're an engineer now.
Man.
So but that's the thing, is like when you come out of school, you feel pretty capable, but you're pretty raw at that point.
What a program, man. Throw you in the trenches and see how you react.
And Baker has similar stuff. I worked for Baker Hughes too. I used to go at the end of their training schools for training their MWD and LWD hands. We would always have a interpretation day. Basically bring out the logs. Okay, you spend all this time learning about the tools and what they do, how they work, maybe some of the measurements. But I want to know, can you tell me what a reservoir is? Or can you point to it? And can you tell me what's in it?
Translate it into something.
Yeah. Because what they want is they want you to be able to talk to your customers and say, these are the things that we noticed from the tools. They're working, and this is what it's telling me. And
Makes sense.
And now, a lot of companies, they hire people like that. They hire service company trained people to interpret service company logs.
Yeah.
Because you already have a lot of that skill set, spending that time actually collecting the data acquisition piece.
So let's rock it back to your master's. What'd you actually get a master's degree in?
I don't actually have a full master's. So I went to graduate school. I started in 2002. I started actually in mechanical engineering.
Okay.
I felt like I wanted to design things kind of about like the RC car,
Right.
plane
Right.
stuff. I really had an interest in the mechanics of that stuff. And but I spent a lot of time after I got hired by Schlumberger thinking about how I could use a master's degree in the industry. And so I switched from mechanical engineering to geophysics.
Okay.
And, so I spent about a year and a half, 2009 in early 2010, going back to school while I was working at Baker Hughes. And I focused in geophysics.
Got it.
And the reason is because I had spent so much time in acoustics, which is the topic that we're about to talk about.
Right.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Mandrill Energy Solutions. In today's demanding energy industry, having the right people and the right partner makes all the difference. Mandrill Energy Solutions provides tailored staffing, personnel, and equipment solutions specializing in solids control, experienced mud technicians, environmental cleanup services. Their team works closely with every client to understand their unique needs and deliver solutions that keep operations running safely, efficiently, and on schedule. Learn more at mandrillenergysolutions.com or through their LinkedIn page. Mandrill Energy Solutions, delivering the people, expertise, and solutions that power your success. If you're like me, it's easy to get through the day without thinking much about hydration until you start feeling tired or run down. The truth is, hydration is about more than just drinking water. Your body also needs electrolytes to help maintain fluid balance, along with nutrients that support normal muscle and cognitive function. That's where Resonate H2O comes in. It's a premium hydration mix with electrolytes, essential amino acids, and thoughtfully selected ingredients that help support hydration, focus, and everyday performance. There are no added sugars, and it's designed for anyone who wants to stay hydrated, whether you're working, training, traveling, or just trying to keep up with a busy day. If you're looking for a better way to hydrate, head over to resonateh2o.com and check them out. And while you're there, use the promo code podcast to save on your first order.
So in 2007, after my Schlumberger career had ended, I started at Baker Hughes as a geoscientist, processing acoustic logs for Baker Hughes Intech. They had a tool called the Acoustics Property Explorer, which has now been rebranded as Soundtrack. And when I first got there, the tool, it was sort of like a very expensive toy. They cost about $650,000 or $700,000 to build.
Wow.
It's got all these special receivers and signal processors and piezoelectric transmitters and receivers in it. And the development of it was very complex. In fact, it kind of came out of people in the offshore world did not want to run a lot of wireline. They would prefer to run LWD systems because when you shut down the rig to run the wireline, it can cost $1 million a day. But if I can run this on a piece of drill pipe right behind the bit, I'm already collecting it. So I can save that money, right away and just put it in my pocket. And
so were you doing an LWD development, or this was this was for LWD?
Yes.
Badass.
Yeah, so I spent my first 3 years in the business with Schlumberger as a drilling and measurements engineer out of Youngsville. That's just south of Lafayette.
Okay.
And I would fly offshore or, like I said, take a boat to the inland barges. And we would put all these tools, gamma ray resistivity, sonic tools, density neutron, NMR. There were a lot of different tools. And back then, it was sort of like these were new development tools. So I know you interviewed Matt, who was
Matt Blythe.
Matt Blythe, and I commented on his podcast. He and I actually worked together. We were in the same district. He was about 1.5 years or 2 years ahead of me.
Okay.
But we actually worked together. And so he can tell you it was a time when there was a lot of development going on these tools.
All LWD.
All LWD.
Holy smokes.
And at the time, wireline for Schlumberger was sort of like the key. That was the original business, right?
Right.
Conrad Marcel Schlumberger basically invented the wireline business.
Right.
And Schlumberger started developing these drill collar based tools, and we were putting all these measurements in them and then doing the same thing that the wireline guys were doing, close enough. And we were taking those signals and basically that was from 2004 to 2006 was sort of like the highlight of the Gulf. I mean, there were more than 100 rigs running.
Wow.
And
more than 100 rigs in the
we had 120 LWD engineers in our district.
Oh my goodness.
There was a lot.
and they were just LWD, LWD, LWD.
I had a team of 4 people. So I spent my first year taking all the training and then doing all I could, because when you're a new guy and you're really hungry, you want to make an impression.
Right.
And since I didn't come from a Yale or an MIT or
Oh, you had something
Georgia
to
Tech,
prove.
I had something. I had a chip. So I stayed offshore. I lived it. I lived offshore. I lived in the schools. I took as much training as I could take. And basically by about a year and 3 or 4 months in, I got my nuclear keys to start running radioactive sources and source-based
Jeez.
tools. And they made me basically they call them a cell manager. It was just 4 people that were on my team, and we would go and do jobs. You would pack all our stuff in the district, get the tools ready, check them, get shipped offshore.
Can you explain how it's assembled exactly? I mean, you got your drill bit, and then you got stabilizers and collars, like the real heavy weight that you're kind of stacking up in the first few hundred feet, I guess, of the string.
Mm-hmm.
You're in that, you're now threading in all these different tools.
Yeah, so basically the way that a BHA is designed, you have the drill bit, which is the cutting surface, and then you have a motor, or you have some sort of rotary steerable tool.
Okay.
And and they put that really close to the bit so that way you can have more control. You want to make some turns, or avoid some things. You can steer the BHA, and then you have all these tools, these drill collars that come behind it. Some of them are the most common one's gamma ray resistivity.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the best correlating measurements that we get. And then they have, depending on what sort of objectives there are. If it's something shallow, most of the time people will just run the wire. But if it's something that's at 20 or 30,000 feet offshore, that's a full 24 hours of trip time to get that stuff in and out of the hole. And so a lot of times they just put all these other tools behind them. So it's like gamma ray resistivity. Then you have the density neutron sub. You may have a sonic tool that sits behind that. There's stabilizers and spacing, pony collars and stuff to get, things sort of positioned the right way. The biggest string I've ever run is 7 tools.
7 tools. Over how many feet?
It was about 250 feet long. Yep.
Yeah. Behind the motor and a drill bit.
It was massive. Yeah.
And all that's coming back, that signal's coming back.
Yes. Yeah. So basically they have these mud pulse telemetry, MWD tools.
Yeah.
And they program them with these encoded bits. Basically, each type of measurement has a length of bits that it sends up, ones and zeros, and then it gets decoded in the software, and then that's what gets displayed as your log. You combine it with the time and depth encoder on the surface.
Wow.
And
so the cluster of bits is, that's coming from gamma ray, not the sonic, because the cluster has a certain signature.
Yeah, so basically the way that the telemetry is designed is it has a repeating set of bits. So you start off with making sure that everything is in the frame. So they call them frames. Basically, it's a length of bits, and then there's one set of bits that actually tells it it's repeating. So and then the surface software, it collects those bits, and that tells you, okay, I'm starting over again. Now, the next word is gamma ray. It's 8 bits, or resistivity. It's 12 bits.
Mm-hmm.
Density is, 6 bits. And so it's always looking for those bits.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tool that's on surface is detecting whether they're actually, signals from the tools or if it's noise. Like because you're basically circulating mud through this whole system, and that whole time the bit's making contact with the face of the rock, and it's creating its own signals too, pulses, and the motor's making pulses, and so you have to get rid of all that noise to be able to decode, what the tools are telling you.
Wow, gamma ray's at 80 API or whatever the
Yeah.
thing's trying to do. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's and the technology's been around for since the 80s. Some of the very first LWD tools At least what I've found are probably in the mid 80s. And it was mostly gamma ray and resistivity. And believe it or not, back then, a lot of the logs were made by hand. The headers are all written out by hand, and we didn't have this computerized technology like we do today.
Yeah.
But it's evolved. There's obviously been several generations of this stuff now.
Man, what an experience. Get to dive into that and being a kid that plays with RC and how it's communicating with itself. And then bang, now you're at the surface of the earth communicating 20,000 feet down through pulses in the mud. Yep. That's pretty incredible. It's a cool story. It's cool that you were able to chase that for a career.
Well, and just to kind of give some color to it, once I got to the point where I understood what the signals meant, I was like, okay, it's time for a change. I want to do more than just acquire the data. I want to do something with it.
Make a decision.
I want to understand what I'm looking at. And like I said, I'm not a geologist. I took a couple of classes in college. It's like sleeping at a Holiday Inn, right? but Schlumberger does a pretty good job of teaching you what you need to know.
Sure.
In fact, most of the service companies do. So I would say I'm probably a trades geologist.
Nice.
Somebody who's had to learn it from somebody else.
Yeah, sure.
But then once I got into the operating side of the business, so I left the service side and got into the operating side of the business.
How many years are we into your career at this point?
About 8 or 9.
Okay.
I left Baker at the end of 2011.
Okay.
I'd started in the industry basically when I was still in my senior year of my undergraduate. So probably about 10 years of practical experience in the service side of the business. And then in 2011, I went to work out in West Texas.
For Apache.
Wow. And I'll never forget, I had this, I applied for this role. I think it was a LinkedIn post or something like this early on.
Yeah.
In LinkedIn. I mean, I got on my LinkedIn and I was like, when did I join this? And it was 2010. So
wow.
It was pretty much right around that time. And I applied for this role and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I went down to San Felipe and in the Galleria area and interviewed with Kent Newsham.
Okay.
Kent.
Yeah.
He's a ex-Oxy chief petrophysicist now, and he's working for some consulting companies. But I spent a fair amount of time trying to understand the oil and gas business actually in an operator. Like, what is it that we're trying to solve?
Wow.
And how are we doing this? What is it what can I add that's going to help? And what I figured out is that, a lot of people that come into the operating side of the business, they miss that service side. Most people don't go straight to the service industry. And so they miss the training. They don't necessarily have the depth and the tools and things like that. And so that's what I bring. I bring a perspective on the data acquisition piece,
right,
the operational execution, planning, and then also the interpretation side. Like, when's a measurement actually good and when isn't it?
Yeah, we actually seeing real rock response here or not. Now, what was your position then at Apache? What was the hiring position?
I got hired on as a petrophysicist.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a mid-career level role. I went to work. Basically, Apache had it set up where there was one petrophysicist when I got there that was out there, and he was running like 25 rigs. I was like, trying to kill that guy. So when I got there, we kind of split the basin up right at the Central Basin platform. I took everything basically west of the Midland Basin, and he took everything that was to the east. And so they had this big play. Apache had this big play called Deadwood. It was a Glasscock County Cline play.
Oh, whoa.
And
Glasscock knows.
Yeah, and they spent some money. They put some money in that thing. We had, I don't know, 200 or 300 logs.
Whoa.
A bunch of core. I mean, they were building a big model of it. And so I got to see some of that. And then, the guy I worked with, his name was Eric, and he basically kind of showed me the ropes what it is that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went and did it on the Delaware side.
Wow.
Apache had just bought all these properties from BP, the
Jeez.
post-Macondo properties. And they had this big field called the Empire Abo Unit, which is on the Northwest Shelf.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so it was a pretty mature field. And
that's all dolomite stuff, right?
Yeah,
The Blindberry
that's right.
paddock.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we actually, I drilled a core in the New Mexico side of the Delaware Basin, and I took about 350 feet of Blindberry and paddock.
Damn, all
basically.
continuous? You just
Pretty much. I mean, it's a pretty thick section. I want to say the whole section from top to base is about 1,000 or 100 feet thick.
Wow.
350 feet, well, it was plenty.
Wow.
Basically, they ended up, the reason we wanted to take the core was New Mexico at the time was it was all federal lands. And so the feds were like, oh, you know what? That's a dune lizard habitat.
Oh, man.
Or those are sagebrush or prairie chicken habitats. So you couldn't just put a pad anywhere you wanted.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to drill horizontals in this area, and there was one called Cedar Lake. And we ended up taking a bunch of core there and ran a bunch of logs. And of course, it was already sort of chewed up with a bunch of vertical wells. So
right.
We had lots of vertical control. And we turned it into a horizontal play just to avoid the dune lizards.
So it wasn't necessarily, we're going unconventional in this, open up more rock, connect more reservoir.
That wasn't the case. But it did bring some interesting. I got exposed to some new technologies at the time. Weatherford had this system called the shuttle.
The shuttle. Oh, the shuttle.
Yeah. Basically, it was wireline tools that were battery powered that you could stuff in a piece of casing, and then you would push the casing down the bottom and then squirt them out, and then you drag the whole thing out of the hole. Yeah.
Wow. The shuttle.
It was pretty interesting. And we ran a whole bunch of that. And
down the horizontals.
Because the thing with carbonates is there's a lot of heterogeneity. I mean,
yeah.
It isn't a quiet pelagic rain sort of deposition. These are reefs, and if you go out and look at any reef complex, it's complex.
That's right.
It's complex. So
and you're going horizontal in these sons.
Horizontal in these things. And we ran imagers and sonic logs, stuff I was familiar with, spectral logs, things like that. And they actually, they show you sort of like the things that are important in terms of paying attention to for production. Just taking an 8-inch pilot hole and extrapolating that for miles is sort of like, that's what we do.
That's right.
That's what we do.
That's what we're
but when you run in a lateral, you see all kind of things. You see where things have changed.
Wow.
Trajectory may or may not be what you think it is.
Now, this is all 2012, 2013.
2012, 2013.
Holy cow, dude. That's like when the horizontals just started coming in like crazy down in the basin. And
Apache had, when I left, I think it was June of 2013, they had 40 rigs running.
So you were at Apache until June 2014?
2013.
2013? Whoa. Huh. Okay.
So about a year and a half.
Yeah, that's a quick little run.
It was. And, to be honest with you, I got an opportunity. Somebody approached me that knew my background in the service business.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody approached me from an offshore operator and said, hey, we want to do this onshore stuff, but we only know offshore.
Yeah. Oh, and they wanted to come onto shore. Okay.
And they didn't want to learn it. Basically, the guy was like, I'm too old to learn this stuff.
Don't have the time.
But you've been out there for a year and a half, and I know you, and I know what you know.
Dang.
So can you, will you come over? So I ended up at Stone Energy doing unconventional business.
This is out of Midland?
No, this was out of Lafayette.
Oh, wow. So you were living in Midland while you're at Apache. Year and a half, you're like, this is an opportunity where I can get a higher position, more senior role.
Well, it was a bit of a change from going, just from operational production into more exploration
Wow.
and business development. And
Wow.
I mean, we truly were looking at every basin,
Lower 48.
everything,
God.
and in Canada too. So we actually had a Canadian subsidiary, and I drilled 2 wells up there too.
Athabasca Sands or the
Canadian second white specks.
what's that? Where is that?
It's a Cretaceous age Eagleford, basically.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
Wow. In Saskatchewan, or where is that?
it's in Alberta. So
Alberta.
we drilled just north of Calgary, Rocky Mountain House, that area, and we drilled 2 pilot holes. Took about 250 meters of core.
Jeez.
And
That's
2
a good-
wells, and drilled 2 horizontals. And believe it or not, we found some grease. I mean, like, it was a success in that case, but a failure in the fact that the Canadian government at the time was becoming very socialist. And so to get frack water, you couldn't just take it off of the surface. You had to buy it from a well from somebody.
Wow.
And we ended up paying like $20 million
Oh my gosh.
to try this in one of those wells. And it just became so uneconomic.
Right.
There was just no way.
Yeah. And you get that 20 million back.
But it did make we had an incinerator out on the well at one point. Basically,
Does that keep everything warm?
no,
What?
they were taking the production and burning it. We had a big giant flame that was shooting out of this incinerator because we couldn't flow it back without it. I mean, we wanted to test this stuff.
Yeah. Really see the volume and the pressures and all that stuff. But you couldn't put it in tanks.
There's no pipeline.
No
I mean, it was out in the middle of nowhere. You want to talk about no infrastructure, no pipelines, and we wanted to test this geologic concept. And
wow.
now, I when I got there, this stuff was already in play. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so they had already made their mind up; they were going.
Yeah.
But they wanted somebody that knew how to collect the information they needed and execute it, and so
Right.
that's where I came in.
Man, that's pretty cool. So now you're in Louisiana. You're living in Louisiana.
Live in Louisiana
And how long did you work for this company?
until 2016.
Okay.
So Stone was a company that they actually did have a very successful Marcellus unit. But if you recall, back in 2014, when oil prices kind of started crashing in late October,
That's
November-ish, so did gas prices. And gas prices got so low that Stone ended up basically having to write checks to produce their own gas
Oh my gosh.
to the midstream company. And it was, and there were a lot of operators that kind of got in that situation because early on in the shale business, there weren't a lot of pipelines. In fact, there wasn't a lot of infrastructure. The stuff that you see today is sort of like the result of all the stuff we did back then.
Wow.
But a lot of companies have had to stand up their own midstream units just to get production out of the ground.
Yeah, I believe it. So 10 years later, you're now consulting.
So I left Stone. Well, so Stone ended up going bankrupt, and I started my consulting business in 2016, and I ended up doing a little bit of offshore consulting for a company called Venari. There was a data room that was available from Petrobras, basically the Brazilian government, because of the way that they run their finances, the U.S. government basically said, we have no visibility to the way you run your business, so you can't operate in the Gulf anymore.
Whoa.
And so it ended up being that this data room had all the stuff from Chinook and Cascade and Jack St. Malo. And there was just a lot of stuff in it. And I had some expertise. I actually, when I worked at Baker, had drilled one of the very first Chinook wells.
Whoa.
So I had this stuff in my history,
Right.
some exposure to it. So it was easier for me to analyze it. And it ended up that Murphy bought it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Murphy bought it. And I ended up continuing my consulting until 2017. In about September, I got a call from a headhunter saying your profile fits perfect with what I've got in mind. And
Bring it on.
It was actually a Blackstone startup company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I ended up in private equity working for a company called Guidon. And they had some wells already. So they bought a big position from Autry Stevens at
Wow.
Dever. He was kind of going through some marital issues and needed cash or whatever. And so there was a transaction that took place with Blackstone, and then Blackstone stood up a company, basically hired a bunch of pioneer people, and
Dang.
they stood this company up, and we operated sort of on a shoestring for a while. I think it was like maybe 35, 38 people.
Wow.
I mean, it was, and we had 2 rigs. Ultimately, we had 3 rigs running before COVID.
Holy
3
cow.
rigs
What were the assets?
Martin County.
Oh, you're
I mean, we're in the heart.
Midland Basin, right?
Yeah,
Heart of the
Midland
Midland
Basin.
Basin.
Yeah, and they had put together a position that was almost 30,000 acres.
Wow.
And
This is kind of buttoned up with like SM and like what they were doing.
it was right next door to Pioneer. It
Pioneer.
was sort of in between Pioneer and QEP. And so the furthest north acreage was former Diamondback.
Okay.
And those guys, they ended up buying the company. Diamondback did.
Oh, you guys sold this position to Diamondback
Sold them the same acreage they had before.
after drilling it up and hitting some things.
Yeah.
Damn.
So it was pretty sweet. There was a lot of learning, but yeah, it was pretty sweet. We had taken about 3,800 feet of core. I mean,
wow,
that's a lot of core.
Wow.
And a bunch of logs, and then we did some delineation. We drilled some pilot wells and did some more delineation. But at the end of the day, I believe we proved up probably about 10 or 12,000 acres that people had condemned.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wolf Camp, Sprayberry, all Wolf Camp.
Well, and then so a lot of the acreage was surface to Wolf Camp, so we drilled a bunch of Middle Sprayberry targets and Joe Mill targets.
Wow.
Lower, I mean, at one point we had a section where we were drilling 7 targets.
Holy cow.
Yeah. It was very impressive. In fact, the reason we're here talking about this is because one of those pads, or 2 of the pads, we had some issues, and ended up having to run this tool that we're talking about, which you can see things away from the wellbore.
Yeah. What the hell?
Using acoustics.
Wow. So I think I need some whiskey for this episode. Sure. I feel it coming.
Okay.
I'm locking in.
Yeah, I'll take some too.
All right.
Why not? That's good.
Okay. So
you want to get to the meat?
I thought I was going to talk about, let's talk about the basics of sonic, let's really get our mind around what's going on there. Okay. If we can do a high level version of that.
Okay.
Because I want to then get into the story of like, what did you guys hit? What did it first look like? What was the first thoughts of it? And then why deploying this sonic scanner or sonic deep tool? Okay.
So, just to give you a little.
Sorry. We're going to officially start the drill down segment of the PBE podcast now.
Okay, perfect.
Go ahead, sir.
So I'll give you a little history on sonic tools and sonic logs in general. The very first dipole logs were sort of proposed in the early to mid 90s. And basically the reason was because a lot of shear waves are slower than, let's say, the borehole fluid. So like if you drill this well and you put mud in it,
mm-hmm.
and then you lower a sonic tool in the hole, a lot of times the compressional mode or the monopole mode will generate a refracted shear. So like, basically if you think about it, light and sound, they create refractions. So if you have a wave that's incident on 2 media, part of it will propagate along the surface, and part of it will be propagated into the surface.
Oh,
So
wow.
so it splits. So whenever you look at a compressional log, okay, so like a sonic tool compressional log, you're looking at the mode that propagates down the wellbore. Okay, so it's along the wellbore surface. The shear mode is the mode that propagates perpendicular to that.
Okay.
Okay, and the way that those modes work is essentially as the transmitter emits this wave or this pulse of energy, it's going to get to an angle of incidence where the modes will start to split. Okay, so it's called the critical angle. It's just like light. When you look at light hitting a prism,
Mm-hmm.
there's a part of it that propagates into the prism, and there's a part of it that separates. Right?
Yeah.
Like it is a refracted, right? And so the same is true with acoustic waves. Essentially, the
Oh,
acoustic
wow.
wave, it hits the surface of the borehole. Part of that wave is going to propagate down the wellbore,
Yep.
and part of it's going to propagate perpendicular to the wellbore. And the shear wave is what's perpendicular, and that's the wave that's very difficult to measure when you have mud inside the wellbore. Okay, because the mud itself also has a mode, right? Like just like if you were to hear a noise underwater, it'll sound different than if you hear it in the air,
Mm-hmm.
but it propagates in the water. So if you ever watch one of these movies where they send out a ping, they just like The Hunt for Red October, I want you to send out a ping and we're going to measure the distance to that other sub. So that ping is propagating through the water and it's
Right.
going to return. And that return is what we're looking for. That's what the receivers are going to pick up. Now the wave as it's propagating down the wellbore is going to tell you about the speed of the rock.
Yeah. How
So
fast
how
that's.
fast the wave is moving along the rock face. And as you know, rocks have different densities and they also have different materials inside. Some of them are squishy, like you have clays or certain
Mhm.
things like that. And so that slows the wave down. Or it could have carbonates, which are really cemented, and that speeds the wave up.
Mhm.
And so, depending on what kind of propagation you have and the material it's propagating in, will determine whether you have or what angle the waves will convert, basically either
Jeez.
compression or shear. And the problem with most tools is because you have this borehole fluid, you have this fluid wave to deal with. And so if the shear wave of the formation and the fluid wave are the same speed, you can't tell which one it is.
Wow.
And so that's a major sort of area where people are spending a lot of time coming up with machine learning models or AI,
Some way to
kind of understand what those waves are, and then they use like alternative data, density logs, or other type of logs to infer certain properties, and then they make an inversion from it.
Got it. Okay. So the wave can come out of the tool, the compression. It's going to run along the surface of the rock to the receiver at the top of the tool, whatever that distance is. It's going to know what that speed was. And you're saying that sometimes the receiver is seeing a distinction, but in reality, those can be coming from two different types of material or
It
fluid.
could be the rock, or it could be the fluid that's in the borehole. Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's where most acoustic process. So like most of your logs are pretty much hands off, right? Like you have a gamma ray tool, you just turn the tool on and it's going to tell you how many gamma rays are coming from the formation.
Yeah.
And an acoustic log, it requires a little bit of human interaction, or in this case, some surface processing. So that's where you apply filters, or you apply band passes, or you change the semblance parameters. You basically are looking for coherent signals, and you wanted to separate them. And so, in most cases, like we deal with this in the geophysics world too, because your source on a boat is like a air gun or something that's below the boat, and then you have all these streamers, which are your receivers behind you. Well, there's a direct wave that travels from the boat to the receiver. in the water,
Right.
and you have to get that out. You have to remove that
You have
in order to be able to
identify
see the stuff that's below you. And so
Same thing with the sonic tool.
same thing with the sonic tool.
dipole.
Yep. It's just
Where did the Stoneley waves fit into this? You have compression, shear, and then a Stoneley is like an
so the three main modes that are in our domain are the compressional, the shear, and the Stoneley. And the compressional wave is the actual compression of the media. So like you're compressing the rock. The shear is trying to figure out basically how much it's moving side to side. And then the Stoneley wave is actually a borehole fluid mode.
Oh.
So the way that the Stoneley mode works, or you can use it for interpretation purposes, is that if it's a porous media, let's say a sand, and it already has fluid in it, the Stoneley mode will go actually into the pores. It'll interfere with the fluid that's in the pores.
Wow.
So it slows down. And we have some tools, some math tools that can tell you certain things about permeability.
Yeah.
Or how much potential the reservoir is to being able to produce fluid.
It can start seeing differences between maybe a more water rich or oil rich or gassy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It is sensitive to the type of fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in most cases, gases are very slow, right? So
makes sense.
And they're very dispersive too. So like when you think about it, if you listen to a train go by and it's got its horn blaring, you're gonna see an effect as it goes by, right? It's basically the speed of sound is traveling faster towards you than it is away from you.
Okay.
And so that's why you see this shift, right? Like you have this shift in tone. Same is true in the borehole. So you have all these different dispersive frequencies that may exist, and especially because the sources in the tool are very narrow band. In other words, we try and emit a known frequency of tone. As it travels through the rock, it's going to be dispersed. In other words, the rock is going to change its frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to understand how much that changed is important too. It'll tell you things about stress. It'll tell you things about And so all this stuff that we're talking about now, the Stoneley, the compressional, the shear, these are not what we're trying to figure out when we're trying to image away from the wellbore. Those direct arrivals are the ones that we have to remove.
So you get rid of all that.
So you pick it. So you have all this software that picks all these modes, and then you want to filter those off and look at what remains, because those are going to be the features that are sort of away from you. Those are the ones that where you have an emission of this compressional or this pressure wave, and it travels out into the formation, and then it interferes with something that has a contrast, an impedance contrast.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a fault, or it could be a fracture, something that's probably filled with some fluid, or maybe it could be injectite or something, but you can image it. Basically, that you're looking for the wave as it propagates away from you, and you're looking for that return by removing all the direct arrivals.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you run a tool like this, okay, let's go into the real life story of when you were like, we need to apply this.
Sure.
And this idea, go for it.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff was developed to image the inside of salt.
Oh, wow.
Originally, the very first time I ever saw one of these processings, the Baker tool is called the XMAC, and it's basically a cross dipole acoustic wave, and it measures two orthogonal axes. So you emit this pressure wave. It's directed, so the dipole is transmitter on one side, fires alternate to the transmitter on the other side. So it's creating a flexural wave, which is what we try and infer from the shear log. And so when you emit this wave and it travels out in the formation, and you remove all the direct arrivals, you're trying to listen really long in time.
Wow.
And so they were imaging the inside of these salt bodies for features that could be, problematic because you're trying to come up with storage facilities for gas or oil.
Exactly. Yeah.
'Cause that's
So seal issues.
yeah, seal
You
issues.
see big seal issues. Okay.
And so then probably in about 2009 or 10, I had seen some operators trying to use this to image fractures.
Oh wow.
It's been a while. It's been around a while.
Yeah.
The challenge is that as these things start to mature, that's when the results actually become more consumable. Because like early on, let's just say MWD log, they used to put the headphones on, and you would draw the trace as you heard the signal change, and so with new processing algorithms and new computers, faster computers that can handle more data,
Mm-hmm.
they've come up with a way to display this stuff so you can actually see the fractures and the faults.
Wow.
And so I saw it, and I never really used it at that point. I mean, we had a couple of customers at Baker that were trying to do stuff with it, and then I went into the operator world, and I didn't see it again for a long time. And then while I was at Guidon, we had a well,
Martin County.
Sail Ranch. We drilled this well, and it was a middle Sprayberry target.
Okay.
And we got just past the curve. I mean, maybe the first 1,000 feet into this well, and we take a 200 barrel an hour water flow
Wait a minute, coming at you?
coming at us. Yeah,
Whoa.
overpressured. And I'm like, oh, this is not good.
Get the diverter rolling.
Because you want to make grease, which comes out of the rock, not coming out of the fracture or this fault, right? And so we looked all around trying to figure out, if we were hooked up to somebody's SWD nearby.
This is 200 barrels of brine coming at you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, basically it was turning the mud into peanut butter.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was
the chemistry was all jacked up.
It was definitely injection water. It had to have been.
How the hell are you getting rid of the 200 barrels an hour at surface? How are you diverting that?
Well, I mean, it's going to the pits. I mean,
but then, the pits eventually gotta.
Well, so once we got to the point where we were actually measuring the pressure, like trying to figure out, okay, what's it going to take to kill this? We figured out it was like 200 or 300 psi, something like that. So they weighted it up, and it slowed it, but it never actually killed it. I mean, it just kept coming. That's why you've got an issue, right? Like you do not want to frack that.
You got to get that behind pipe.
Yeah, you want that behind pipe, and you want it to stay behind pipe. You do not want to make it. You don't want to make 1,000 barrels an hour.
Yeah.
After you frack it, you want to leave it and so
middle Sprayberry injector somewhere.
No, I think it was probably some sort of, somebody didn't have casing that was cemented very well nearby or something.
Down in one of the deeper verticals going down like into the Devonian.
I think it was San Andreas. So, I mean, San Andreas injectors all around us. So it's shallow. So it's probably you're injecting into a San Andreas disposal well, and then it's migrating to another well that doesn't have a good cement job, and then it's going into this fault that's connected.
Cow.
Yeah, I mean, it's something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And
because that was really the only injection kind of thing going around. Yeah. I'm sure you guys did the studies and like who's putting water out.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was your first encounter though.
This is the first encounter. And so, we as a team, we sit there and we're like, well, okay, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I know of this technology where we can try and image it and see how complex it is and where we need to
love it.
Try and stay away from.
Yeah. How big is it?
Yeah. How big is it? You want to know, right? So basically we run the tool down on a tractor. So we tractor this XMAC tool down the hole.
Wait a minute. You're like, well, how are you doing that? So you hit it, you keep drilling through it, you wait up, you kind of get all the way to the point where you got an open hole and you're circulating.
No. Okay. So we drilled it all the way to TD. We ran the casing down it. Cemented it.
Oh my gosh.
And then we tractored in this wireline tool in the cemented pipe.
Going through cement and casing.
Yep. It's a very special tool. I mean, the technique itself uses dipole waves. Okay. So I think the stuff that, at least that previously has been presented as like the bars technology, or and that's borehole acoustic reflection survey. This is Schlumberger version.
Okay.
But if you look at the DSWI, which is the dipole shear wave imaging, which is what I use.
Okay.
This is the Baker product. They do similar things, but they use different modes. One of them is a monopole mode. The other one's a dipole mode. Dipole modes work through casing. Monopole modes, just the wave travels down the casing. You don't see anything away from the wall.
Wow.
In open hole, it would work great, but in cased hole, it doesn't. And so using the Baker technique in the casing, we were able to image this fault. And we did it on the first well. And then we thought, okay, now we know what we're dealing with. We'll blank off, 1,000 feet in both directions, around this fault, so we don't frack it. And we drilled the second well, which ended up being like a Joe Mill well. Same thing.
Holy shit.
So this whole field has got this fault running basically through our entire Sprayberry section. Middle Sprayberry all the way to the lower Sprayberry.
Full of brine.
Well, we're finding it in our wells. You can see it in the gas, like you're getting these gas spikes. You can see where you've kind of interacted. You can't see it on the gamma ray. So like if you're running just MWD gamma ray, you wouldn't know. But you see it in the gas, these spikes where they come up from the fault. And
wow.
But we wanted to be more precise. So we ended up tractoring in 4 more wells. We ran this tool 4 more times and imaged this fault.
Wow.
And then we decided that we were going to try and save these wells by not fracking this water-filled fault. And turns out that we really only sacrificed about 10 to 15% of the well.
Oh, wow.
On each of the wells, but they end up being some of the best wells.
No kidding.
This problem exists everywhere. So you can imagine how chewed up and broken up the Permian is. I mean, basically there's a lot of tectonic stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
And these faults are subseismic. You can't see them on typical seismic imaging. And so you're basically relying, on gamma rays and gas most of the time. But in this particular case, because we took such a flood of water, we decided to do something about it.
How big was the first one you got back when you started getting that data back, the second arrivals, I guess you call them? How big was it coming back? How did you figure out how far these cracks were going? How wide was the crack?
So the tools are designed in a way where they listen for a certain amount of time. Okay, so if you think about it, if you have a source and then you know that the speed of the medium is X, however long the receivers listen will tell you how far you're listening out. So like in most cases, like the dipole wave, because of the speed of the shear arrival, it's usually about 100 feet to 200 feet.
Oh, okay.
So you can image things out to about 200 feet away.
Okay.
And at the time, I mean, we were intersecting it with the wellbore, so you could see it right at the well face. Yeah. I mean, it was you got this big bright feature, and it kind of dims as it goes out, but you can see it. It's like a line, and it's just moving out away from you for 100 feet. And there were a bunch of them. Like, that's the thing is, like, when you think about faults, we always just assume it's just a planar feature.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to a roadside and you really look at an outcrop that's cut out,
yeah,
you can see there's a lot of conjugate faulting going.
That's right.
I mean, it's more complex. And so when we imaged this thing, we had about 4 or 5 nice bright features. They were all in the same direction.
Wow.
Basically cutting the well at the same azimuth. And then we actually were imaging the natural fractures too. So there were natural fractures we were imaging across the wellbore that weren't water filled. And so you could see them both, and they were kind of crossing up along the well. And so that's where you have to figure out, like, okay, how far away from these do I have to be before I start interfering with them? And at the end of the day, we just decided 1,000 feet was probably enough. That's about 4 stages or 5 stages worth of.
So get through it, get a good image of it, know where that kind of exists. Get yourself 1,000 feet and start setting stages, and go for the more natural fracture.
Yeah, I mean
Storm.
those are helpful, right? Natural fractures, as long as they're
Now,
filled with hydrocarbons. It's
yeah.
fine. But
When you say natural, both of them are naturally fractured, right?
yeah,
But the natural, when you use the term natural fractures, you're saying these kind of maybe conjugates or some kind of Rydell, some kind of fractures that are smaller from the bigger fracture.
yeah. So like maybe they existed at some point after the fault, right? So like when two major blocks fault, and they start to move, they create all these subsequent fractures, right? And then there may be some change in stress over 40 or 50 million years, and then you end up with another set of fractures, right?
Mhm.
And so knowing the direction was sort of helpful, so that way we knew like how to project it to the other wells.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to frack it at all. You just don't want to frack a water source like that.
Yeah.
I mean, because eventually, what I think maybe for the disposal company would have been great, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You make a couple of water wells and you're disposing of injection water. It's just like a recycling plant.
Yeah.
But yeah, as an oil producer, you don't want to produce injection water.
That's right.
Resonate H2O provides the hydration your body needs with a carefully formulated blend of electrolytes, essential amino acids, and premium ingredients designed to help support hydration, focus, and everyday performance. Whether you're heading to the gym, the office, out on the trail, or just trying to stay hydrated throughout your day, Resonate H2O is built to help you feel your best. Visit ResonateH2O.com and use promo code PODCAST to save on your first order. That's ResonateH2O.com. Hydrate smarter with Resonate H2O. This episode is proudly sponsored by Mandrill Energy Solutions. In today's demanding energy industry, having the right people and the right partner makes all the difference. Mandrill Energy Solutions provides tailored staffing, personnel, and equipment solutions specializing in solids control, experienced mud technicians, environmental cleanup services. Their team works closely with every client to understand their unique needs and deliver solutions that keep operations running safely, efficiently, and on schedule. Learn more at mandrillenergysolutions.com or through their LinkedIn page. Mandrill Energy Solutions, delivering the people, expertise, and solutions that power your success.
Golly. So that's amazing. That's a perfect application. You went out there, you figured out, man, there's something really wrong here. We're hitting a fracture. It's filled with produced water or injection water, whatever this is. It's messing up the chemistry bad. I mean, you're getting all the signs that this is something you've got to figure out and then how to stay away from it. And then here you are 4 or 5 wells later where you really kind of got a handle of it. You got this protocol that says keep 1,000 feet away from it. You end up making a good story that ends up selling to Diamondback. Diamondback now owns natural fractures filled with water, but you didn't frack them. You didn't.
Well, a lot of these companies, the bigger companies, I mean, they have good, strong technical teams, but a lot of them have sort of gone the way of hiring more graduate school level people that don't have as much service industry exposure or experience. And that's been sort of a trend that I've noticed over the last decade. It's becoming, we're losing a lot of knowledge. We're losing a lot of this kind of stuff. Like we're talking about it here, but this stuff's been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so when you get to an oil, an operator, and you look around the teams, are they 5-year hands or are they 20-year hands? Or did they come straight out of college or did they come from a service industry?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the advantages that some of these companies have is they have a mix. Like there's a mix. You want to have a mix. You want to have some people that understand the data acquisition piece
Mm-hmm.
and how to apply this stuff, like the way that you leverage the data. Don't just collect it, but leverage it. And then you have some people that are really detailed, like they've dug real deep into a subject and they know how to take the data and do things with it, right? But you definitely want to have a mix of people from the service business in your operator.
Man. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely makes sense. That's I'm hearing that loud and clear. And It's almost like it made me wonder, how long has Schlumberger, Baker, Halliburton, Weatherford, these companies server-side companies that have these programs where it's a fake rig, it's all for training, it's to test people in real time. How many of those kinds of stories end up working for the Apaches and the Oxys and the Diamondbacks? And
Well, believe it or not, when I got to Apache, the first thing I did was I called my former coworkers and said, "Hey, this is great." They're like, "Oh, well, is there any more opportunities?" Right? So, well, as a matter of fact, there probably is.
right on.
And so we did. I brought over, my best friend, and then we ended up hiring a couple of other people
Right on.
that I knew could really do the job.
Yeah.
And so we built a team. At one point, I think Apache had 7 people out in the Permian, which for a 40 rig program is fine. That's probably doable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not 2 people. That's not possible. It's just impossible.
Man.
But yeah, and a lot of those people now are, they're at Oxy, and there's several of them that are still doing, good stuff at Apache, and some that have moved on to Devon or,
Sure.
Katera or whatever it's called.
Yep. Man, so when did you start interacting with the SPWLA then? Was that right away in the server side of things, or?
Yeah, I think so. The very first paper I ever wrote was actually an SPE paper. And
Oh, wow.
It was, I co-authored it with another guy that was he was a French guy, and it was on the actual development of multi-pole, multi-frequency tools. So in the world of acoustics, you have 2 different types of sources. You have narrowband sources and you have broadband sources. Most of your wireline tools are broadband. In other words, they emit an energy wave that has a wide frequency
Okay.
bandwidth to it. And then in the LWD world, because everything has to be powered by a turbine down hole, you're very limited in the source strength. And so those are more narrow banded type
Wow.
tools.
So you got to kind of pick, like, are you going to send low frequency stuff, mid frequency, high frequency? Like, what you don't get to just throw it all at it.
Yeah, it depends on what you're evaluating. So definitely there's some mechanisms to plan that you have to put in the program. Like, it's good to know the speed, the approximate speed if you have offset data of the rocks. It's also good to know, like, mud chemistry and parameters, things of that nature. Depth, obviously all these factors can have an effect on the quality of the acoustic data. And so you have to design a lot of this acquisition program around knowing what those parameters are.
Makes sense. Do you have a recommendation for someone who is really interested in learning about all these kind of subtle details within just acoustic sonic logging? Are there textbooks out there that talk about how you actually do what you're saying?
That's a good question. I would say that most of the stuff that I have for my own training materials has come from the service industry.
Wow.
I don't know of an actual book on borehole acoustics. That would be something interesting to actually publish.
Right on.
There's a lot of petrophysics books or petroleum geology or petroleum engineering books that have give you kind of a gloss over this is how acoustic tool works, and maybe some information about what you do with the data.
Right.
But nothing in terms of how it's processed,
right,
or what sort of parameters you really should be paying attention to.
Yeah.
No, I'm not aware of one.
Could be something we do for the SPWLA.
Yeah, there is an actual SIG, an acoustic SIG.
Acoustic SIG? Are you part of that?
I actually haven't been able to participate as often as I'd like. I mean, I do a lot of conference stuff.
You going to Poe?
I'm not going to Poe. I've been to Poe though.
Yeah, you've been there, but you're not going next year.
Yeah, Baker's Geoscience Center for Europe is in Poe.
Really?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, how about that?
I actually made my first visit in 2007.
Wow.
Yeah. the Pyrenees Mountains.
Sheesh, man.
And there, they actually don't put governors on their go-karts. So, I went to a go-kart track, ended up in the tires. It was not a good experience.
This sounds awesome.
Yeah,
I hope they still have this go-kart track. I definitely want to try that.
But yeah, I mean, Poe is definitely a place where, it's beautiful. It's very pre-World War II. Like
Whoa.
a lot of there was actually a deal. I didn't realize it until I was leaving Poe, but the Germans had made a deal with the Europeans not to bomb some of these, more countryside cities, and so Poe sort of looks like it did before World War II.
Wow.
So you actually will get some medieval history kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, the event itself is in a super old building. We
Yeah.
talked about that previous shows. Well, that's cool. Man, as we begin the completion segment of the PBE podcast, Derek Buster, your story so far has captivated me. Your experience and just your perspective when you look at data or when you see a log, you're pulling from this incredible history and this teaching that you've got that started really when you were a kid, talking about RC car or remote control technology with planes and cars. And then you end up doing that as a career. And then you spend your professional career really doing this and then finding that real world application where you cross a fault after the curve and it brings in 200 barrels an hour. And what is it? And then getting the opportunity of answering that question, how unique and just a great story. I really appreciate you doing that. As we get into your career now, like what you're doing now and what we see in the next 10, 15 years, let's go with like a machine learning AI take from your perspective after doing what you've done. Where do you see it, the pitfalls and the benefits?
So, I use a fair amount of Copilot, or I've had Chat GPT. I stopped paying for it, but I try to use it in ways that can help me speed up data consumption. So if you look at the oil and gas industry historically, we have a ton of paper, right? Like almost everything that we have is paper logs,
Yeah.
paper reports,
Scout tickets.
Yeah. If you get on the Railroad Commission website, everything's a PDF.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of non-digital type information. So I use a lot of these AI tools to strip data. So rapidly turn histograms or charts or things like that into usable information.
Okay.
So digitizing is a very tedious process.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of companies that have gotten into the business. They do logs, right? So a lot of them have digitized logs.
Neurolog, stuff like that you're talking
Yep.
about. Okay.
And then there's been a few instances where I've run into companies that are digitizing headers now, right? So they're actually stripping a lot of the casing points and
Yeah.
bit sizes, temperatures,
Yeah.
mud resistivities, things of that nature come right off the header. I mean, the vast majority of good petrophysicists will go back to the header first,
Wow.
because you have to be able to understand the environment that the log was acquired before you can interpret it. I mean, it is a lot of information to consume.
Yeah.
I've found that a lot of people don't correct logs. I mean, some of these logging companies have come up with special tools, chart books, things of that nature, to help you calibrate what the tools actually are reading, rather than assuming that it's the rock may have some mud artifact or could be doped with, potassium or something else that will mask the true measurement that you're after.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be able to get this information off the headers in order to apply the corrections you need. Hole size, temperature, mud resistivity, if it's oil-based mud density,
Yeah.
barite content, all this.
Wow.
It has so I use it in ways that help me, make my corrections. If I see things in the notes, like, hey, I had to put a 10-foot shift on this log. because, there was some problem with the
Couldn't get the tool all the way down.
couldn't get it all the way down, or got hung up and there was a pool or something, and noticing those things is important, because we just assume that what comes from the logging company is correct.
Yeah.
But about 100% of the time, they're off depth.
There's something
going on, right? Like,
Wow.
there's something going on. And so,
That's amazing.
so petrophysicist, being a petrophysicist means you don't just accept what comes in the LAS.
Sure.
You have to have some ground. You have to have some rules in fixing and correcting this data.
So AI has helped you. Machine learning
AI
has
has
helped you.
helped. Yep.
On that front. Okay.
And I use it sometimes to help me generate parameters. So, like, if I have a map, let's say I've got a map of stratigraphy, I can put the map in and it will generate a set of tops for me. Like, if I give it a position on the map.
Okay.
So there are ways to extract data out of this stuff that traditionally you would have to go and get a log and maybe make some picks or whatever. So, but as a petrophysicist, I mostly use it for quality control. Use it to make sure. I know that there are some people that are starting to write predictive programs that generate logs. In fact, I think TGS has a product called RLAS, which is it's a product which looks at offsetting logs, and if there's a type of data that's missing, it will synthetically generate one.
Because that well had a whole triple combo, and that one did too, and this one over here did too, and you're in between all that, and you only have a neutron log or a gamma ray.
Correct.
Then you can start making assumptions off of what the gamma's doing based on those other ones. You can start making a synthetic neutron or whatever. Okay.
Now, I'm a purist, so I don't necessarily buy it, but I use it. Like, if I have to and I need it, I'll use it.
It'd be good for like thought experiments, right?
Yeah.
I guess, like if you were to go in and kind of go with a blind study and what you think might be changing in resistivity or neutron density or something, and then you pull that log that they have and it confirms or denies what you're thinking. I don't know.
A lot of these formations have very specific properties, right?
Right.
Let's say you're in the Buddha limestone, which is just below the Eagleford. The Buddha is a carbonate. Well, it's a lime-rich carbonate. And so it has very specific readings, like your density neutron needs to overlay on the limestone scale, right? I mean, otherwise it's not pure limestone.
Yeah, otherwise you got something else going on.
So it can be used to identify like where you have problematic data. You want to be able to quickly get through a bunch of information, because you can't look at every log. It's just not possible. There's 150,000 logs out just in the Midland side of it. It's a ridiculous number.
Yeah.
But I don't need all those. I need the ones that are specific to my area or, what I'm trying to target. And I remember having a conversation with a CEO one time. He said, "How many logs do you think we need?" And I said, "Well, probably one every section." And he started laughing. I was like, "What? You want to drill a 2-mile lateral on a 6-mile correlation between wells?"
Yeah.
It's like you really have to, in this experiment, you have to imagine that you can't even go outside and look 6 miles down the road and tell me what it looks like.
That's right.
You're just assuming, you're making a lot of assumptions about, the earth is flat. And I call those the flat earther guys.
Oh man, the flat earther guys. What's your best defense, or what's your go-to? Have you met people who actually say, I think the earth is flat. I don't think it's round. And they actually like question you, like, how do you think it's round?
I've never run into a flat earther, but I certainly have run into some really interesting people. I have a story I tell, one time I think I was talking to my mom. Can't remember who it was, but I think it was my mom. And she was like, "So every time that they want to put a gas station, they go drill a well right there." It's like most of the public doesn't understand.
Sure.
They assume that when we drill oil, it just comes out of the ground and it goes right into the pump.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that's involved.
Yeah.
To convert all that into usable type of fluid.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we just did a podcast with Julia. You've run cross paths with him?
Oh yeah.
And he goes, man, I'm not embarrassed to say it. He's like, I was naive or whatever and young. He goes to an interview with Shell and the guy goes, can you imagine 40% of this rock? He holds up a piece of core. Imagine 40% of this rock could be filled with oil. And he goes, I said nothing because I had no idea oil came from rocks. It's like, I thought it was a pool somewhere.
Right. I mean, that's true. I think that's how people envision it because we make the cartoons look like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have one that I used to post on my door, and it basically is the dinosaur with the little fart coming out.
Oh,
You
no.
drill a well into it.
Oh, no.
That's how people think.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah. No, you're right. There's a lot of textbooks and a lot of things that can be updated, I think, with the societies, with academia, to really put more reality into this and do a better job at getting the younger generation to realize that there's so much more to figure out in, applied geoscience. And yeah.
Well, and I do worry about our industry a little bit because, like I said, we have this brain drain going on with the big crew change. So you have all these people that are really senior. They've already made all the mistakes. They've got a lot of lessons that they've never documented completely.
Yeah.
And in most cases, operators don't, right? Like if you drill a bad well, most of the time it just goes in the drawer.
Yeah.
You're
Nobody
trying to
wants to
forget
talk
about it to get to the next one.
Right. Yeah.
But it really should come back full circle. You don't want to repeat mistakes you made in the past. And so, for a lot of people that I think, are new to the business, they don't have a lot of exposure to the failures that have happened in our business. I mean, I can remember when I first got to Midland and everybody was talking about drilling horizontal shale, it was still taboo. I mean, you would be fired potentially if you proposed something like that.
Wow.
I mean, like, you want to drill a shale? You out of your mind? Because people are really conventionally, they have this conventional thought.
Yeah, it was just problematic stuff you had to drill through and get behind pipe.
Correct. And so for us, how do we take the knowledge base of acoustics or whatever? How do we capture that in a way that is transportable to the next generation, to the future explorers in the world? And so I've spent a lot of time, educating my kids. So we spend my daughter actually wants to follow in my footsteps.
Let's go.
I know.
What a win, man.
I know. She looks at what I do and she's fascinated by it. She's
That's
like,
what's up.
so you're telling me this is what the rocks look like underneath the ground? I said, not exactly, but this is how they're represented, right? This is, the pinks and the purples and the greens and all that stuff. That's just in your imagination. But, this means that it's porous, or this means that it's rich with organics, or this is all water. It's like you're trying to make a leap. And fortunately, kids are like sponges, man.
Yeah.
And she grasped onto this stuff. You know what she wanted for Christmas? Physics books. I was like,
get an oscilloscope.
Most girls want clothes or
Yeah.
dolls or whatever. She wants books. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to say no,
Heck no.
to that.
I'm going to lean into this.
Yeah.
Get her a box of RC car
Right?
receivers and transmitters.
I tell you what, as a family, we still do it. I mean, I've got, probably 20 or 25 cars.
No kidding. Badass.
We had-
Gas powered, electric.
Both. Yeah.
Badass.
We had boats. I had 3 planes. When you're in the hobby, I mean, you're in the hobby.
You're in.
It's forever.
Wow.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of my life, and it was a stepping stone for getting into the technical.
Right.
So I do encourage my kids to play with them.
I love that, man. It's so strange, but I never thought of this. I mean, I'm not kidding you I guess 20 years, maybe freaking 30 now, because I'm approaching 40. But I grew up and there was an RC car shop. It was like the vacuum store, the light bulb store, and then an RC car store. And that store captivated me like nothing else. I walk in and I would just look at the shelves and just be like, oh my goodness, look at all these different things you can control remotely. How does it all work? The guy out there with his like ice, you know, he's got his scope on, he's working on like soldering wires. I'm like, but I was exposed at a young age, and from when I walked into that store to my parents giving me cash for Christmas that year, I went right back to the store and I bought my first big RC car.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just the best purchase I ever made in my life. My parents are like, damn it.
It was a really, I mean, you know, to kind of talk about the stepping stones of becoming a technical person. It was probably one of the most fascinating hobbies I've ever had. I mean, you meet people that are real engineers. I mean, like some of the people that are in the RC world built the Mars rover. You know, it's like, wait, okay, hang on a second. Now we're talking and the drone technology we have now,
Yeah.
like all this stuff you're reading about. These were all people that got into the industry young, and they learned how to fly, and they understood certain things and aspects about how to build those kind of devices or toys, and then they just took it into, you know, what we have for defense contractors now.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
so it is a very interesting stepping stone. A lot of people have grown out of that into real industries.
Yeah.
So,
Man. Well, it's been a fascinating to learn about it and how you're leaning forward. And so talk to me a little bit about your consulting now. What do you got going on?
so I do. So I've got several people that I work with pretty routinely. They understand my products. They've had some success. So obviously, after we flipped Guidon, I took a little hiatus for about a year, and just to think, just to envision what I wanted for a future.
Wow.
And so I started a company that was basically doing what we were trying to do at Guidon, which was understand the minerals underneath everybody. And I started building products and things using a lot of the public data, or I partnered with Premier Corex,
Oh, nice.
and we actually did some rock data integrations too. And so I've got products that are available that are rock-based maps. And I'm not just talking about the petrophysical data. I'm not talking about just porosity or saturate. I'm talking about organic content, things that will tell you about maturity, or things that'll tell you things about, whether it has a certain type of clay, because sometimes the clays are really important.
Oh, very important.
You've got some that promote Diogenes, some of them don't. And so if you have some types of chlorites or things like that, it just depends on how they're distributed or whether they're grain coating, things of that nature. You can be in a hot environment and still preserve porosity. So I think that a lot of the stuff that I work on are useful tools for trend analysis. I do regional studies.
Wow.
I'm
So you-
working with a couple of South Texas companies right now.
Really?
Yep.
Doing like Gulf Coast stuff, Vicksburg, Wilcox, and all that stuff. Convention.
Doing tier 2 expansion, looking at step outs, trying to understand the direction that they should be, taking their capital. Like should we go to the east or the west, or
Wow.
things of that
Eagleford?
nature. Eagleford. I do a lot of stuff in the Permian still.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely a gap. Like I said, we have a knowledge base that's sort of outside of a typical operator right now. And a lot of the consultants that I do know, people who have retired recently, they're doing the same. That they're like, not quite done yet. I've done my 40 years or whatever, but I'm not quite done yet. I still want to teach people. I still want to have a interaction with the companies that I've worked for in the past. Give that handover to the next generation. So certainly full plate. Like I'm busy, but I'm always looking for other things too. So
Wow. So you can go to, like, if I go to your website, do I find this information? Okay, you have
can.
like packages of these different things that you just sell. You already put the whole thing together.
So
The
if you give
study's
me
there.
an AMI, I can tell you how many wells I have in the area, and I can tell you what already's been produced, like
Mm,
you know, and then you can add or incorporate, like if you have new data that's outside of my area, you can incorporate it. So a lot of the stuff that I've done in the past is uh, perpetual purchases from TGS. So I own my own well data. So it's easy for me to incorporate. Like if you got a private operator that's got its own private data, I can incorporate it with my data,
yeah.
generate things a lot quicker. And in fact, the whole purpose and reason I even started going down this route was I proposed to my former VPs, like if this product existed, would you buy it? And he's like, well, yeah, because it would have accelerated our
Right. Save you
ability to
time.
buy or evaluate a data room or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of that, and then I also have a couple of other businesses that I'm in. So
Really?
yeah, I got in.
Mowing lawns or what?
No, actually, I got so when we didn't sell the company, and I was just doing consulting part time. I got into the RV business.
I picked up on this.
Yes.
That's right.
I got into the RV business, and then I got into manufacturing,
Hmm.
RV parts manufacturing.
Oh, geez. So, like the common things inside the RVs that kind of go bad.
Believe it or not, COVID wiped out a lot of industry. I mean, different industries really went through a purge, and a lot of these RV companies that were in business have folded up or been bought out by other bigger companies. And so a lot of the parts that you find in these older RVs don't exist. So if you send me a sketch, just some basic dimensions, I can generate, a model and then print it. I 3D print them. So I have a 3D printing company.
To do what, like the plumbing on like a random little RV?
Well, let's say
or-
you've got a fixture that holds, let's say, a curtain rod,
Yeah,
and you can't find it.
can't find it.
You send me a picture of one that's good, and I can make it, and it'll look just like the one that you have, and you can fix your RV.
Wow.
I did one. I've actually got a video on YouTube, but there was a guy that had basically $1 million coach, like it's a tour bus type
Yeah.
RV, and he had this seat switch which you couldn't buy anymore, and so I got online and I found one. It was close. It wasn't exact, and I had to make a small adapter to put it in his seat. And so I basically took the switch, I took his seat, I drew it all out, I put it in my CAD software and
Jeez.
generated it and printed it. And let me
Plug.
tell you, it saved him a ton of money. And he was able to sell his RV because that was the only thing that was busted in his RV.
Was the switch
The seat
so he
switch.
can go up and down and whatever.
Basically, it was he could move it back, but when he did, he couldn't close his slide. Like his chair would interfere with his slide, so he needed to push it forward. And he couldn't do it. And so I found a switch that would work.
Wow.
And then I just, made it a part that
Reverse engineered this thing.
Yeah. But I got into that. And then I filed a patent. My wife,
Nice.
we've been living in an RV now for 4 years.
No kidding.
Yep.
So you're traveling around.
We're traveling around and I'm doing the consulting thing.
Yeah.
Just doing oil and gas consulting, traveling around, and I'm making RV parts, and I'm fixing RVs. So I went to trade school and got a certification to learn how to work on them.
Wow.
And, yeah, so I've got an RV business and a 3D parts business that I make parts.
Wow. Didn't see that one coming. I remember seeing something about that though. And I mean, obviously following you on LinkedIn for a while now. And I think I remember you saying something about this RV thing years back.
Yeah.
And then obviously when I stalked you on LinkedIn, it came up, the certificate you're talking about, how you get a certificate in RV mechanics, I guess. RV.
It's basically like it's like an auto parts mechanic or home tradesman. I mean, there is no standard, like there's no standard brake set. Like you're not going to get brake pads. I mean, it's not that kind of stuff. This is really house stuff. Like how do you fix a door, or how do you fix the plumbing? I mean,
I got you.
things like that.
Where are you? So you're in Houston now. You're just, but are you guys fixing to go somewhere?
Brenham. We're living in Brenham
At an RV park.
at an RV park.
That's awesome.
And it's nice. It's like a resort. I mean, it's
Yeah.
got, you know, it's like going to Disneyland. We just live that way.
Wow.
And then, you know, to tell you about my other product, I mean, basically, my wife was in our RV, was hot, you know, because obviously you don't have a roof, and it's just it's a piece of fiberglass over the top, and
Yeah.
and so, you know, when the sun's hitting it, it gets hot inside. It's like a container. It's got air conditioning, but sometimes it's not as efficient.
Sure.
So I'm talking to her, and she's, you know, she's in her bed, and she's like, I'm always hot. I wish that I could feel the air coming out of that air vent. And I was like, looked at it. I can fix that. I can make that happen. And so I actually invented something that helps the distribution of air inside an RV.
Wow.
Just helps you take the stuff that's coming through the ductwork and
distributed it more evenly across the space.
And so it was a really simple concept. I learned some of this stuff, the mechanics stuff, when I was in school, and you know, I had some CAD background, you know, technical drawing, things like that. So I picked it up, and
so you got like an air duct on the ceiling, like an air duct design across the ceiling.
It's a really simple fixture. It's like a vent. It just slides up into the ductwork.
Okay.
It collects the air and it puts it out the outlet, and then you can focus it where you are. So if you think about it, like if you're being in this space,
yeah,
you don't feel the air blowing on you, right? Unless you're really right under the vent.
Yeah.
Then you get cold. So I took the concept of I need to be able to feel the air before I feel cool. And I turned it into a product which actually helps do that inside an RV. And I was like, well, this is a great concept, because now I can sell something, I can manufacture and sell something that goes with our lifestyle. Like when I talk to my customers and I'm explaining what it is, like, where do you spend most of your time? Well, I spend it in my lounge chair. And
where's your closest vent?
Where's your closest vent? And we put one of these ducts, the fixtures up there, and they're like covering up with a blanket because it works. I mean,
yep.
And so I, about a year and a half ago, decided that this was worth patenting.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. So my brain went, okay, if you need to cool down the container, you got to evenly distribute all that cool air as wide and as out as possible, evenly across the room. But no, you focus where you just need it.
Correct.
That's the more efficient way to go about it. Now you can turn it down even, because
that's right.
You're not just maxed out.
It's a interesting concept, because I think the vast majority of engineers are like, okay, we don't want to have something blowing directly on somebody in the distribution portion of the RV. They call them diffusers. We don't want to diffuse it though. We want to focus it, because when you feel the air going across your skin, the first thing it hits is your hair, and it's letting you know that the wind's blowing. And so when you feel it on you, you actually feel cooler.
Wow.
And even though the inside of the RV may still be a little warmer, where you're sitting and where you're enjoying your space, it's cooler. So,
wow. All right. What's the SPWLA done for you from when you first got involved to what it is now? Where do you see the SPWLA kind of going for petrophysicists and for the young Derek Buster that's out there and that's trying to, right?
Certainly, I think the knowledge capture piece is an important piece. The SPWLA has got a great repository of pre-existing work. There's already a body of knowledge there. A lot of people who had some really good ideas and published things. I've always had this. I've had this mode of operation whenever I interact with societies, SPE or SPWLA. I will not publish anything unless it either one makes money for a company or saves company from money. Number two. Those are my rules. I don't write about stuff that's sort
Just
of
thought
minutia,
experiments or
scientific discovery kind of stuff. Like I don't really need to know the density of TOC, right? Like it's not that important. I mean, it could be pretty close, right? Like I get close enough. But when it comes to applications, like taking this acoustic technology and being able to shut off a water source, which could totally water out your well. I mean, if you think about it, we're producing oil. If I'm producing a lot of water, I'm creating a lot of hydrostatic head and I'm suppressing oil production.
wow.
So I want to be able to take those kind of applications and deploy technology where a company can actually use this stuff to make money. And so I think there's a lot of stuff that's in the SPWLA library that does that. And then there's a lot of stuff that's more like scientific discovery.
Yeah.
People trying to get, masters or PhD stuff. They publish things that maybe are really small. Like it has a very small influence on
Sure.
our industry, but important, but
Specialized.
Yes, very specialized.
Right.
Nobody's going to make millions from it.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. That's exactly where we're hoping to take it. We're in talks and trying to move into this 12-month trial with the SPWLAs for PBE to be a media hub, for me to be able to go out across the globe digitally, but also in person and meet people like you and meet others that have this very specific knowledge and experience and the way you articulate things. And then we're developing an app on the backside of that where we can actually make that accessible without having to sit and watch the whole 2-hour episode, right? You can really chat with you and the conversation we had on the show, but then take that into the archives. How can we pull that out of the webinars and out of the archives of that 66 years of history, right? And make that accessible.
Yeah.
And make it accessible for the young Derek Buster who's out there actually on location for a service company or an actual operator dealing with something. We just crossed a fault and we're now taking in 200 barrels an hour. Like, what the hell do I do? Or what is this? Well, there's an actual there's a place where it can go find that conversation. Here's what it could be.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest point of resistance with that whole application was nobody wanted to run logs in an open hole, right?
Yeah.
Down a lateral where we were having 200 barrels a day
Yeah.
come in. It's like, you want to do what?
Yeah.
So nobody wanted to do that. And I said, well, they don't have to. If you put pipe and cement on this, we can do it in cased hole. And we can do it offline. You don't even have to have the rig there. We can do it once the rig leaves location and before the frac crew gets there. And you can save some money. We can actually, we can impede the water coming in and swamping out our oil production. And in this particular case, I think we had success.
Yeah.
And I have seen people that have used this technology in the past that maybe it wasn't as clear, right? But it all depends on how much experience you have with it and what you want to do with it. Like if your goal is just to see the fractures, it might be easier to do. But if your goal is to blank off portions of your well so that way you don't make a flood, that's a totally separate application.
Yeah.
So,
man. Now, when thinking about the experience you had with finding this big fracture that had 200 barrels of produced water, injection water coming at you, and then doing that same exercise down the rest of the wellbore, do you see an indication, or can you see indication of, okay, there's fractures and these ones might be more oily than the next set of fractures. These might be more briny and influence the way you frack and where you place stages along this lateral?
certainly you can look at trying to do, I would call it engineered completions.
Mm-hmm.
The more capable evaluation of fractures is in an open hole with a real imaging type technology.
Okay.
This particular tool or application, I would say, is more of like an intervention technology.
Hazard kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a hazard avoidance.
Yeah.
And certainly there are companies that have, people inside that may not be as aware of what you can do with certain technologies. I mean, if you can imagine if you had somebody, no service company experience,
Yeah.
that had no exposure to this technology, there's probably a lot of skeptics.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you want to do what? And how's it supposed to work?
Yeah.
It may be a bit harder to sell.
Sure.
And so, like I said, if you have people that sort of have some exposure to what is available on the service side, then it may be an easier sell to get it down the hole and do something where you can help your company. The way it was put to me is if we make water wells out of this, we're pretty much done.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
you're working on basically borrowed capital, right? To drill these 50 million at a time. You got 8 wells; they're about $7 or $8 million drilling complete. If we make half the production, we're pretty much we're basically taking half of our capital and flushing it.
Mm.
So the next set of wells we'll have to borrow more money. And that I think that in the grand scheme of things, capital allocation should include some hazard assessment.
Wow.
What are we doing and why are we doing it? Is it all geometric? Is it all continuous? Is it all flat Earth? Probably not.
That's right.
Probably not. So trying to figure out how to help your company, you have to take some bold steps. I think that's one of the things too with our industry. There's a lot of people who may not have the confidence yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're so new into the industry. They're a little timid in being able to say what they really think, or what maybe if you've seen this application, maybe you don't speak up because you're just a new guy.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I do think that there's a space for people like me to help companies that have these kind of challenges, and that's where my consulting business comes in.
Nice. Well, man, this has been a fascinating show. Learned a lot from you. You certainly made me think back into new memories, or old memories that I just haven't thought of before. And the application of this idea, I'm always after, okay, if natural fractures are the primary delivery of a reservoir, how do we map natural fractures away from the wellbore? If you happen to miss them, is there a way to see them? You're just a few feet away or 100 feet away. Is it possible to see those fractures? And then you make that post on LinkedIn that talks about the hazard story, which I had no idea we were going to get to hear that and get the details on that. So I appreciate you sharing your time, being here at the PBE podcast and meeting up with us.
Yeah, thank you.